Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yeonni, and for today's video, we are going to talk about lessons that I've learned. Yes, thank you, Chai. He loves to scratch as soon as I start filming. Lessons that I've learned and relearned in 2020. I want to add the and relearned part because a lot of the times, at least for me personally, I realize life teaches you the same lessons in different ways. I don't think it particularly means that I haven't learned that lesson at that point, but it's more of like a reminder because it's that important. This is the last video on my channel for the year of 2020, and I just really like to wrap up the year, things I've learned, things I can reflect on, and that is why I'm here today. So you know what? Let's just get straight into the video. I went into this like contemplative mode a few weeks ago and I started this list on my phone. So let's get started with the first one. The first lesson that I've learned and relearned in 2020 is things you've overcome or felt like was in the past can return, but that's okay. You're not that same person. You've grown and you'll continue to grow. I feel like when I was writing that particular bullet point down, I was really thinking of this summer when I was unemployed and feeling really, really insecure. And I noticed that I was tying so much of my worth into my job and my career goals. And this is your first time on my channel, you might not know this, but if you've been here for a while, I always like to tell people I love setting goals. Like it's exciting for me. Setting goals helps me to feel motivated. It helps me to, get through the day feeling excited to work towards something. I find that really exciting. But then I've also noticed that sometimes I can get too goal oriented where if certain goals are not met according to the timeline that I want, I feel like I failed, like I'm a complete failure. And yeah, I tie my worth to my accomplishments. And this was not the first time that I noticed that in 2020. I really had some sort of like a breakthrough time in college when I realized this for the first time. And then I said, I'm not going to be like that anymore. I'm worth so much more than my accomplishments. Me as a human being, there's so much to me than my career, than these little goals that I set for myself, whether little or small, right? The situation might be different. I may be a year or a few years older, but a lot of the times life tends to throw the same challenges at you, and you just have to keep reminding yourself that you are growing. I think that's when I say you, of course I'm talking to myself as well, but we are growing. Even if it sometimes feels like I've already gone through this, why am I going through this again? I already learned my lesson. I just think it's part of life and growing up where you realize you just learn the same lessons over and over again sometimes. And it doesn't mean that you're stuck. It doesn't mean that you are not growing. It just means that maybe it's just time for a good reminder to take care of yourself and to really kind of find balance in yourself again. Number 2, there is so much beauty in hope and resilience. I believe I wrote this down because, 2020 has been really difficult for so many of us, financially because of unemployment, health-wise because of the freaking pandemic that is still raging all around the world, and that leading to lockdowns, which leads to a lot of isolation for a lot of people and rising numbers and anxiety and depression, and I found myself always being glued to the news and always being kind of bombarded by all this negativity. And I remember feeling like it's amazing what the human resilience can look like. The first way that I was reminded of that and learned that lesson, again, of course, is just looking at the frontline workers, the nurses, the doctors, even the janitors, the essential workers, bus drivers, Uber drivers, people who have had to continue working during this year, seeing these doctors and medical workers with their layers of PPE and protection, fighting to save lives. And not only is the pandemic difficult enough, but if you're in the US, there has been a lot of mixed information about the pandemic and certain factions of the country thinking it's not real and completely throwing away the efforts that our doctors and frontline workers are putting in every single day, where they're getting bruises on their faces for wearing masks for so many hours. And that kind of resilience, that strength that humans have are amazing. And I also, a moment that I was thinking of when I was thinking of that lesson and that reminder was the US elections when, Joe Biden was elected as president-elect. I cried. It was just so amazing that people came together to fight for democracy. And, you know, that gave me hope. That gave us hope. It's been a crazy year. Anyway, I am always so inspired by how much resilience and hope that people can have. And I've been reminded of this over the years so many times through working with my clients who have faced so many hardships, but they just wake up every day feeling so blessed and grateful for life. And it just reminds me to remain humble and to just witness the awe of people's resilience and hope in really dire situations, how people can really come together to support one another in times where there doesn't seem like there's much of that. But third thing, it's still a process. Everything is. I've got so much to learn and so much to grow and understand. I think when I was writing this, I was realizing that I still have much growing to do. Ever since I was younger, people have told me that I'm very mature for my age, and I always felt mature for my age, sometimes to my own detriment, where it's hard for me to fit in with other people my age group, hard for me to identify with certain things that make people in my age group feel excited or whatever. And sometimes I get way too into my head, and I still have a lot of growing to do. Doesn't matter if I've learned so many lessons throughout the years. Doesn't matter if I've gone through years of schooling, I have a certain license or degree. Doesn't matter how many years of experience I have in a certain field. I think as people, as a person and a human being, I still just have so much to grow when it comes to me and my relationship with myself, me and my relationship with the people around me, with the world, the society, what I can contribute to this world, learning when it comes to boundaries, what I feel comfortable with, what I don't feel comfortable with. Either it's new lessons, or as you can see from the pattern of this video, lessons that I have learned in the past. It's always a process, and that kind of mentality would freak me out before, I think, but as I grow, I've learned that in a way it's also comforting that for someone like me who I have such unrealistic expectations for myself, like who am I to expect perfection from myself when I know I'm like such a flawed human being and I'm not perfect in any sense. It just, cognitive dissonance just doesn't make any sense. So it gives me comfort and peace accepting that I am a work in progress. And as long as I'm going the right way, which is making sure that I'm checking in with myself, making sure that obviously I'm not doing any harm to the people around me or to myself, and that my goals are for the right reason. You know, like the reason why I wake up in the morning, the reason why I want certain things in life, they are generally for the right reason, like right, you know, good reasons. Then I'm good, I'm fine, and I'm doing a good job. I think it's important to remind ourselves that at times. You're doing a good job. Let's see, what is the next one? Some days doing nothing is exactly what you need to do. That is very applicable to the pandemic and everything that I just kind of shared with you. Some days I had to do nothing and I would feel guilty a lot of the times, but 2020 has taught me that doing nothing this year specifically was already doing so much because of just the noise and just the stress and the pressure and so much that we were going through as a society this year. And collectively, you know, collectively going through so much, even though I was doing nothing, I realized a lot of that was okay. Like, it's okay to have a day where you just watch YouTube videos all day. There's so much going on in the world. There's so much going on in our lives. And that is a new lesson that I learned this year, I think. Because I'm always so go, 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 I realized some days it's just so nice to be lazy, and that's totally fine. Next one, closure in reality sometimes isn't the perfect knot as we imagine. It's more one-sided, and that's going to have to be enough. Man, that is a lesson that I've learned in more recent years in my adult life. Like, let's say you have a fight with a friend. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. Is it your fault? Is it the friend's fault? Was it a mutual thing? Doesn't matter, because both parties, your feelings are hurt, right? And let's say you muster up the courage, whether you're a confrontational person or not, whether you're comfortable with those kinds of conversations or not, you muster up to text your friend, say, hey, let's talk about this. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, or I don't know really what happened, but I care about you. I want to work with you on this friendship. And in a perfect world, the other party would say, sure, or like, okay, and the result would be we grew from this, right? Or I forgive you, or you forgive me, and you're able to continue on the friendship. I think as I've become an adult, I've learned that sometimes, many times in life, there isn't closure. And that's hard to accept and come to terms with. Randomly, I think because this year I've been home so much, I would think of certain friendships or just acquaintanceships or even like certain relationships in my life, yeah, where I wonder, that's so weird. Like I would start going into the scenario of, I wonder why that relationship ended in that way, and could I have done something better, or could that situation have been handled differently and where we were able to continue on our friendship or something like that. And I think I just had to realize it sometimes doesn't matter what you do. If the other party doesn't reciprocate or doesn't want what you want at the end, you can't force someone to change their mind. You can't force someone to do anything. You can't force anyone to do anything, to be honest. And you're just gonna have to come to terms with that. I've definitely lost relationships and friendships in my life where I wish things would have gone different ways. I wish I could have had closure. But I think it's like I found my own loophole. My own sense of closure came from accepting that there's not gonna be closure. I'll never know why that friend doesn't like me anymore. I'll never know why certain things fizzled out. I don't know. And I think it's important to kind of leave it as it is. That way, like people like me, I overthink. All right, we're good. Sorry, my battery died. Another lesson of 2020. You go with the flow. Work with what you have. Okay, I think we're good. The angle's probably a little bit off, but it's not about the angles. It's about the content. Let's move into the next one. Is this even kind of centered? Whatever, what was I talking about? Closure, yes. It's hard to accept. It's hard to come to terms with. But a lot of the times, it is what it is. And last but not least, I wrote, there is always something to be grateful for. And I think that's such an important note to leave this video on. I, especially in more recent years as an adult, have become so cognizant of how privileged I am as a person. And I don't know why, when I say that, people give me different reactions. Some people are like, oh, like, are you bragging that you're privileged? And I'm like, no, it's not coming from a place of being like, I'm better than you. It's literally just the world, there's just so much inequality and injustice, and being aware of that, I am aware of the privilege that I have. And if we look at the world through a lens of everyone's the same, it's the same thing as like, oh, racism doesn't exist because I don't see color. That's just not true. It invalidates the experiences of people who experience racism. So it's like the same thing where even in classism and the different opportunities, because a lot of the times racism in this country that individuals get, they're different. So when I say I'm privileged, I mean I am so grateful of the opportunities in my life. I'm so grateful of having family and close ones, a roof over my head. And I just want to always emphasize that it comes from a place of being so aware of just how much I have to be grateful for. And also being so grateful and privileged, how important to me it is to either find a career path or volunteering or some way or another to give back to the community, to try to play a part in reducing the inequality as much as possible, or helping out those who are affected by the inequality of our society. 2020 once again was such a huge reminder of my privilege and of just so grateful I am. Half of 2020 I was unemployed. I was unemployed for 6 months. I went through a lot of interviews that were very disappointing, a lot of challenges, a lot of things I wish I didn't have to experience this year. However, still, at the end of the year, not only because I was able to find a job, like thank God, but even in those 6 months, I was able to live comfortably under a roof in a warm home. I had the support of my partner, Matt. I had my family support back in Korea. I would like to say I'm a very realistic person. And again, I don't know. It's like, it depends on the situation. I'm realistic. So if the reality, is that I can be, optimistic, sure, I will be. But if the reality is that being optimistic is not very realistic, then I won't be optimistic. Does that make sense? Anyway, like certain things, for example, yes, the water is half full, half empty, right? Water is half empty could have been I was unemployed for half the year, and it really, really messed with my mental health, my sense of worth. It was really hard for me. But I feel like I've learned to really train my brain to start flipping things around for my own sense of coping as well, because sometimes when I'm really sad in the past, I realize I chose to stay sad. I wanted to stay in the sadness, which it's good to feel out your emotions, all of them, not only just the happy and good stuff, but the sadness and the anger. We are three-dimensional beings. It's important to feel all of that. But also there comes a moment where you need to realize you need to come out of there too. And there were times in my life where I just wanted to be sad. I wanted to stay sad, and that never led to good places. So me knowing that about myself, I know that a coping skill that I use is to flip things realistically, right? Yes, I was unemployed for 6 months. However, like I said, all the things I already said, I'm so privileged. I was able to have a roof over my head, and I was still able to stay healthy. My family were able to stay healthy during the virus, and my partner was healthy, and we were able to pay our bills, pay our rent, and there is, at the end of the day, so much to live for, so much to be grateful for. And 2020 has taught me all of these really, really important lessons, whether they were new, whether they were lessons that I've just had to learn multiple times throughout my life. Each and every one of them were so valuable. And I guess I just closed off my video already. That's it for my video on lessons that I've learned in 2020. Let me know what you think about any of these lessons. Do any of them resonate with you in your personal experience as well? And if not, then what are some lessons that you learned this year that really resonate with you? And it would be great if you could share those in the comments down below. Obviously, I read all of my comments. I love talking to you guys down there. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of the 2020 year. I hope you are taking care of yourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, in all of those beautiful ways. And I guess I'll see you guys next year. Bye.